So hi everyone, welcome to the PIK, where we ask the questions others don't. On today's podcast we've got Liz Turner. Liz is highly respected within the recovery community, not simply because she is made out of addiction, but for her straight talking, no nonsense approach. Someone who I think it's fair to say inspires women and men facing struggles around parenthood, relationships, and just generally dealing with life's ups and downs, on top of being a recovering addict. I think that sums you up, and of course you're fairly transparent, and that's kind of why I keep you in my corner, so to speak, as well. And and you don't hide from yourself. I think that would be a fair summary of you.
I love that summary.
It's a good summary. And so you found your passion. You are running a successful life coaching business, and you do rehab referrals as well, and you're running your own podcast at the minute.
I am. Yeah. I think you need to use the podcast very loosely at the moment.
Well,
but yeah, I have got It's Wonderful Humans, which you'll find on most platforms. And I love the fact you said successful life coaching, and I suppose what do we measure success with? It's in its infancy, but it's growing, and I'm very proud of it. I do like working in that arena as well.
Good. And on top of that, you're a mum.
I am.
In recovery, which is the biggest challenge.
I'd say, certainly in terms of my child and my parenting, he's my greatest achievement, but my biggest challenge. I never thought, being with mum would be so rewarding, but would challenge every fibre of me. Because ultimately I'm an addict, I'm self-centred, self-seeking, selfish human being. And when you have a child that wants every moment of you and every essence, it's really difficult to balance that out. And teach them like the whole moral stuff. Like my kids can swear like a sailor, but won't in front of you guys.
That's good. That's self-awareness.
Wow,
That's self-awareness, isn't it? And it's difficult. It's difficult being a parent, just in everyday life, and then being a parent as a recovering addict, because we're dealing with our inner child. I think is fair to say.
I think the downside to that, sorry to interrupt you, is that that I, with my parenting style with Oscar, is I tend to rectify my childhood through him.
Yes.
Which can be a double-edged sword, because he's never lived that. He's always had quite a blessed life. He was a recovery baby. His father is in his life, and what I do is then overcompensate with something he never lived. So it can be really difficult to have that fine line of not spoiling him or damaging him through me trying to heal through my own trauma as a child. So it's difficult.
And I think on the flip side, because what recovery gives us, because it gives us real insight, I think we're very privileged to be around the people we're around and to do the stuff we do. If we're able to give that to our children, when I look at my children, I'm able to see the dynamics between me and recovery and me and not recovery. Children that I had when I was using and my son that I've got when I'm not using, and the impact that I've had. So I think we're lucky to have that and to be able to pass that on.
Definitely. And I think, I don't know about anybody else, but for me, I work a 12-step recovery program, and using those tools within my parenting has become, it's a non-negotiable. I have to, and then what filters down is then my child grows from those spiritual principles and the living, from being honest, open, and having these principles instilled into him without him even knowing it. So
talking about parenthood and childhood, tell us about your upbringing. What was life like growing up at home? Kind of what did you want to be as a young girl? Those dreams and aspirations that all children have. What was that like for you?
Ah, God. So growing up, I come from a really fractured family, and the family's still fractured, and my both parents are dead now. And I suppose really we were latchdoor kids. Both my parents worked. There wasn't a lot of parental guidance around, and it was really difficult growing up. And it's like fend for yourself, even though there was a roof over my head and there was food in the cupboards. I suppose for me, neglect comes in different forms. I wasn't neglected in terms of that, but I was certainly emotionally neglected. And I wasn't protected in a sense, And it's really difficult, speaking about this, because as I said, both my parents are dead, and it doesn't feel right now kind of, slating them for where they were at, because they were just parenting from the knowledge that they had,
Yes.
which wasn't the greatest in my opinion. And I'm sure my siblings would agree, some might not agree, it's neither here nor there. But they both had to work, so they weren't around. So there was things that happened that possibly wouldn't have happened if, say, mum was at home or dad was at home, and there was that tag teaming of parents working together, which didn't happen in my home.
That's like real acceptance, isn't it? And that's what comes with recovery. I accept people did the best they did with what they had at the time.
Yeah, I think for many years, it's pre coming into recovery, I was like, this was so awful and this happened to me, they kind of loved me. But I think it's contextual, isn't it? I think they did love me. I just don't think they knew how to manage a family. I think they were both extremely unhappy within a marriage that was broken way before I came along. And back when I was born in 1975, I said that really quickly, you didn't get divorced. You things like, and God, I'm not saying I agree with it, don't agree with it, but this is just what it was back then. That people didn't have abortions. So I do believe I was a child that wasn't wanted, not because they didn't like kids, but my mum had 7 children. I was the 7th, and 1975, that's a lot. That's a lot. And they would always refer to it as my first and my second family. And I was part of a second family, and it always felt like really dismissive and that we were unimportant and that, we weren't as valued as the first family. Whether that's the truth in her mind, we will never know. She's dead. But for me, as the youngest and as a child, I felt that. I felt that a lot.
So when we did the pre-show, excuse me, I've got a bit of a cough. When we did the pre-show chat, you mentioned prostitution as a child. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to just dig in. How does an 11 years old?
Yeah.
How does an 11-year-old child work out that grown men want to sleep with her?
Because they were going to take it anyway. And it was quite telling, because it's only been in the last few years that I've actually been able to call it what it is, rape. That's what it was. I was 11, they were grown men. But if you'd spoken to me, I would even say 6 years ago, I would have gone, well, no, it's my first sexual encounter. I still dressed it up then, and like I said, neither parent was at home. There wasn't protection. My first rape happened within my family home in the living room. And I'm not going to go into the gory details, but that's one home, that's one place that any child should feel safe and at home, and this stuff shouldn't happen. And I know it happens right across the board, but this is one person that my parents knew. This wasn't like a friend. This was a grown man in my home. I was 11 years old. And as I said, it's only through being in therapy, working a 12-step program, and deeply working on myself in the last few years, I've been able to call it what it is, rape. And then from that moment, it was kind of like men did what they wanted. And so very quickly, I kind of figured, well, they're going to take it anyway. And that was something that my therapist pointed out to me, the language that I was using. They're going to take it anyway, so I might as well give it them. I might as well charge them. And then it was just like a snowball. And I think that's why I don't like the word slag. And God forbid, I'm sorry on this podcast, but I really hate that word, because what that word, that view of a woman, you don't know what the script is. And I suppose right up until my adult life, I was that. That's why I don't like that word today, because it wasn't something I chose. I didn't watch Pretty Women and think, oh, that's what's going to happen for me. This was something that was behaviourally that was taught, this is what men do. They're going to take it anyway. So I might as well earn something out of it. I might as well gain something. And believe you me, in the early days, I wasn't earning money. Fags, bottle of alcohol. Wow. It wasn't like, oh, they were paying me. It was tokens. It wasn't until, really getting into the sex industry that, I earned money. And I earned good money. But where did that money go? It wasn't going on jewellery and nice clothes and houses and this luxury holidays. It was going on putting stuff in a needle and putting it in my body.
So was that like a process where you were groomed over time, or was it just as brutal as you said, men just taking what they wanted in the instant?
I think in my memory, it kind of just happened back to back. But I suppose in reality, it was a process. It wasn't like he got off and someone got on. But the space between each man was very quick. And I think what came from that is I learned how to be quite sexual.
Yeah.
As a young girl, because that and this is why I struggled, because my parents are dead and I don't like doing this. There wasn't a lot of love. You know, I don't think my mum ever told me she loved me. Certainly wasn't hugged by either parent. So I've got these men that I'm looking up to that are essentially showing me love, you know. And I learned very quickly that to get attention, to get, you know, love, to have affection, to get a packet of fags, get a bit of booze, get some gear, I learned how to use my sexuality as a young girl to gain these things. And then that filtered into adulthood, where I still have to challenge that stuff. You know, like sometimes, like, and I hate this, but sometimes how I dress. You know, I was at a friend's 30th birthday the other week. I'm going to share this. And what I was going to wear probably would have been more suited to back out when I was on the game. Right. Like, and I have to go, oh God, no. Like, but it's not because I think, oh, you know, that's how I want to dress. It's because I'm conditioned. This is something that happened over many years. And then to try and challenge it and change it today, it can be a real struggle. It can be really difficult.
That sort of plays into your core beliefs. How long were you sex working for?
Most of my life. Wow. So I came into recovery in 2012. And before that, my sex working stopped. So it was around 2005 I came out of jail, which was my last jail sentence. And I think it was a couple of years after that the sex working stopped. That was the first thing that stopped for me, was the sex working. And then from there, like, slowly dipping my toe in and out of recovery. When I say recovery, I don't mean an abstinent-based recovery. I mean not putting drugs in a needle and sticking it in my groin. I mean, not going out and scoring. So I was still drinking or smoking a bit of weed. But it wasn't like those hardcore drugs, because I didn't know about, you know, abstinent recovery. Excuse me.
Okay. I suppose, so I was going to ask the question, you know, were you kind of encouraged to do that, or was it survival?
I think it was a process.
But I suppose we've answered it, isn't it? And but they're going to take it anyway, so I'm going to give it to them and I'm going to get something in return. That's survival, isn't it? Is it taking control? I'm going to take control of a situation that I have no control over. Yeah,
I think there's an element of control in there, definitely, and an element of surrender. They're going to do it anyway. I might as well play along. Be less painful. If I fight, it's going to be painful. If I just lay back and allow it to happen, and then I think from there the survival kicks in, doesn't it? And the element of taking control does kick in. And then as you get older, for me, as I got older, it was a given, you know. And then it was about non-negotiables, as in, you know, what am I prepared to do for this money, what am I not prepared to do. And then I realised then the power came because in the industry there's some things people ask for that, you know, aren't the norm, and so you can charge extra or you can decide not to do it. So, and then there's an element of power and control that you can feel, definitely.
So just to jump back, when we're talking about men, what age are we talking? We're talking young men, we're talking older men. When you were a young girl, you know, just to sort of build.
So my first rape was in a house was by a guy that was 21 years old.
Right.
So and again, back then, you know, I don't think can think of any person that wasn't sleeping with a guy that was older than me, even when they were.
I was going to say, when we think about the time and when it was, and that's why I wanted to ask the question. And I suppose, you know, it doesn't make it okay. It absolutely doesn't make it okay.
But it was viewed differently back then.
It was absolutely viewed differently,
differently.
But not at 11.
No, but it was still viewed differently. So it wouldn't have been, you know, eyebrows wouldn't have been raised and concerns. I don't even think I'm sure safeguarding was around back then, but it wasn't how it is today. You know, whereas we would then go in, have all force and protect people. It was like given, it's what went on, which is a really sad thing to say. Like that the mentality was, this is okay, this is what happens. I know. Because that's why I think for so many years I struggled to call it what it was. Because it was my first sexual encounter. Yeah. No, it wasn't. I was 11 and he was a man. I was raped. Yeah, I was raped. And even when you look at the legal aspects, when you look at that in law, I was raped. I was a minor. He wasn't. No matter how you want to dress it up, that's what happened. Yeah. No, and when I look at an 11-year-old today, I think there's no way that girl can make a formed decision to sleep with somebody, to have sex with somebody. And I think, you know, that's why it took me so long to be able to call it what it is.
And I suppose underneath all that, there's this trauma that's building.
Yeah.
that we don't realise is happening.
Like a layer cake.
And it's coming in, isn't it? And it's gaining momentum, and then we turn to substances.
Yeah. And I think substances, definitely like, drinking and smoking weed with your pals was all a bit of a party, doing ecstasy, going out and raving. I've had some amazing times going out and doing that. But for me, when, the level of baggage that was going on, level of trauma, it was only ever going to progress, and it it was a process over many years. And before I know it, I'm using heroin and smoking crack.
And that's it. And you said, and there is a level of that. Oh, I'm going out and partying, but we're not on that journey that other people are on. I'm on a journey to get away from me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take this drug. It's not going to do the trick, so I'm going to move to the next one.
And I don't know about you, but I was always that person that's like, oh, you're taking one, I'm taking three.
Yeah, of course.
You're taking 5, okay, I'm going to do 10. Like, I'm going to get more fucked, excuse my language, than anyone because I need oblivion. Yeah. And then my weekends would go Friday to Thursday, like the whole week, before I even realised what was going on, And
I kind of find that I slip through the social circle.
Yeah.
And where did I end up? And I should imagine it would be the same for you. And you said, I ended up with using addicts, smoking crack or injecting heroin, and those became my tribe. And of course, once you get into that, that cycle's hard to break.
I don't know about you, but I was a bit of a chameleon too. I could bounce from any social situation and any sort of array of friends and be what I needed to be in that moment, to be around people. It was very easy.
Do you think we still do that in varying degrees?
1 billion %.
It serves us now though, doesn't it?
Yeah, because I think it's that transferable skills, isn't it?
Yes.
Where it served us well in a kind of way to keep us safe back then, today, certainly who you see if you were to come out for a meal with me isn't who you're going to see professionally. There's two different things, although I'd still have my cheeky element coming in professionally, but they're like the hats that we have to wear. Like my mum hat's very different to my party girl hat, you know. And I still do go out and party, I just don't do drugs or drink alcohol when I do that, so...
How old were you when you first picked up?
God, I think we were drinking at that party that I was raped at, which was in our family home, because both my parents were away, so...
Right. And then how long before you progressed onto heroin and injecting and in your groin, which is kind of one of the last stops, isn't it, before you either get off or stay on?
Yeah. I suppose in terms of heroin, it was after my first jail sentence. So I was 20 when I went to my first jail sentence, came out, and the boyfriend I was at the time discovered it, and that's when I started using heroin.
And did you know at that point it was to just numb? No. We don't, do we?
No, nothing. No. It was, I'm just doing drugs because that's, it's that, I want to say hippie vibe, but, I don't want to be, palm it off as that, but that, we're just, good time vibe, having a party, smoking a bit of weed, even though I was always on something. I was always using something. Like, cannabis was a staple diet, and then it was like heroin became the staple diet, but it was never like I knew the consequence of taking heroin. It was just like the next thing on line to take, But actually, the first time I took it made me really sick, to be fair.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? And we go back.
And I was like, that was great. It made me throw up. I'm going to have some more of that.
That's exactly
and I
what
was KO'd. I need some more of that, you know? And then before you know it, years down the line, obviously injecting became a thing, and very quickly I had to go in my groin. And I think it's because I was no good at banging up. Being able to do it properly, I wasn't any good. So going in my groin was an easy, God.
Well, it is easy, isn't it? It's quick, isn't it?
When you say that out loud, living the life I lead now, the insanity of that thinking, it's easier to put a needle in my groin. Yeah.
It's like easy because what's my objective? Get this drug in me as quick as possible, and I can slam and I can do a bit more than I could if I was going in my arm. So as an addict, it's absolutely
straight in. Yeah.
And I suppose so, kind of mentally, addiction. When we come out of that, it's only then we realise, like, I'm broken.
Damaged.
Yeah,
damaged. And what do I need to do to repair this damage? Like, how do I do this?
I don't know about you, but I just looked at it, it was like this whole heap of mess inside me. How did the wreckage of our past, but it's internal, isn't it?
Yeah.
And and we think we're going to go to rehab and we're going to fix it within 6 months. And you know me personally, you know, it's taken years of falling and getting back up, and what can I learn from this experience, and just really picking through it, and just kind of having some acceptance that sometimes, you know, I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm going to get things wrong. And I think in early recovery we can focus on outside too much, can't we?
Definitely. I still can today, you know, focus on the outside stuff, you know, what am I wearing, how do I look, is my nails done, are my lashes done, and that external fix. I think the difference from early recovery today is that I'm continuously working on my internal.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't believe, and I'll probably get slammed for this, I don't believe clean time, the amount of years I've been around equals my sanity. No, by any stretch of the imagination. We had a conversation at the beginning of this year and I was an absolute wackadoodle when I was not on my A game, you know, because I've allowed external things to affect me internally. But it's about working that program, isn't it? You know, about, you know, having those principles in my life that keep me well.
And I think that's important to say, and to have that outside stuff's okay.
Yeah.
But you've got to balance it with the inside stuff. You've got to, and as you said, you do a 12-step program. That's where the step work comes in.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and it's a process you can't see happening, but it happens when you put the pen on the paper. It happens.
Yeah.
And I describe it as taking, you know, the medicine your mum used to give you as a kid that tastes like crap, but it makes you better. That's the step work, you know. And it's I hate the process, but I enjoy the result, you know. And
definitely.
You know,
definitely, and it's a continuum, isn't it? You know, like we are. For me, I'm like a river. I'm always changing. I'm always moving. I'm never the same person as I was, you know, half an hour ago, an hour ago when I woke up this morning. And it's about understanding that, acknowledging that, and accepting it. You know, like I'm going to have my bad days, but what I do have today, working a program to what I had when I was out there, like literally living life blind. You can't put a price tag on it. I'm doing a step 1 at the moment, mate. And like this is probably going to be odd to some people that don't know what step 1 is, but you know, really looking at, you know, some of my denial over the last year, you know.
We can work a step 1 around anything, can't you?
Around anything. Yeah, it doesn't have to be just addiction. No. For me at the moment, it's not around addiction. It's around some of my behaviours, people. Yeah. And some of it you write, and I think, oh my God, how am I going to speak this out loud to my sponsor? And actually, the value in doing that. And what I've gained, I haven't even read it out yet, I'm still writing it. I'm just not rereading it. That insight, that real insight, putting pen to paper, there's a real value in that. Like that speaking to somebody, there's a real value, like therapeutic value of that. So, yeah.
So, I kind of already know the answer, but because that's kind of what I see. Do you think women are more exploited in addiction than men? And if so, you know, what are the dynamics and the differences between that? I believe they are. I believe women are exploited or exploited in different ways. I
think exploitation is a big word to use, and I do think women are exploited. I think men have their own struggles. And I have to be really mindful here because I'm always getting labelled like this man-hating feminist, and I'm not. I've got some great men in my life. But I do see, you know, the brokenness that women come from, some of the damage that happens through being exploited through that. But then at the flip side of that, you know, like let's look at the suicide rate in the UK.
Yeah.
The highest in young men. So I don't know. I think for women we have our own struggles, our different layer of struggles, and 100% there's some that get exploited. And I know certainly I wouldn't have said that a couple of years ago, as I've already said, you know, but I just think they're different trials and tribulations. I think
that's really interesting, isn't it? When you just mentioned the suicide rate in the UK, and some of that will be because of trauma, and trauma doesn't necessarily bleed into addiction. It will go into mental health as well.
Yeah.
And are we only noticing the kind of levelling up of the exploitation, if you want to call it that, now because men are being more open and being more transparent about how they feel?
Definitely, and I think sometimes, you know, and I might be speaking out of turn because I'm not a man, but I think sometimes it's, you know, you do as you see. So you've seen this happen, so you mimic it into your adult life without even really knowing that you're being abusive, you know, or that this isn't how you behave, because it's, I don't know of a better term, and it's probably not as PC, but monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
like it's learned behaviours, and not until something becomes really broken and we have to look at stuff that we go, oh God, that's not right, I was abusive. I speak to a lot of men, and as many as I do women, and I don't think it's unique to one thing. I think it's a human being condition of just, trying to get by and acknowledge and be honest about our traumas and be honest about what's going on so that we can then heal. And I certainly know for me that's the truth. Because I can blame all day long.
Yeah, it doesn't serve. Doesn't serve.
No, and I'm not saying what happened to me is justifiable or was right when I was 11, but I ain't going to change it. No. But I can change today.
And you said something a minute ago, I just wanted to go back on about feminist man hater. And that is not how I see you.
Thank you.
I'd consider you a close friend, and definitely, my behaviours early doors, as they are for most guys in recovery, and I can't speak for women.
And women. It's not unique to just the one. I think women do it too.
And my behaviours, I check my behaviours with you, whenever I know if my behaviours are off around females. And I ring you because I know I'm going to get an honest, non-judgmental, no, Dan, you've been out of order here.
Thank you.
No, Dan, you shouldn't do that. And but I don't hate you for it.
Thank you, because I don't and I do get it a lot. I had somebody say it to me in a very derogatory, you're a feminist. Go look up the meaning of the word. It's not for me about, championing women, even though I do. I'm a strong believer in when you're working, 12-step programs, women for women, men for men, because of my track record with men, I have to be mindful of that. But I don't hate men. I've got great men in my life, but I will always be straight with you. You're not going to get it sugar-coated from me, and we can all slip, can't we? My behaviours over this last year have not been great. Let's be clear. But I don't hide from it. That's the difference. I can go, I've been an absolute nutter. I haven't been working a program, and I haven't been doing what nourishes my soul, and I know that can be for men too. We're human, having a human experience. We're not robots that we just tweak it and then we're fixed. It don't work like that. It doesn't work like that.
And it's and that's why that is exactly why I come to you, because I've never felt any judgment, but
never.
And you've advised me on some personal stuff, and that's real testament to kind of who you are and
you.
How I see you, and also I'm a little bit self-aware, tiny bit, that I need to be told straight, so I know I'm going to get that, the kind of love from my dad that I did get and still need. No, this is not okay.
Yeah.
But just have another go.
But that's real friendship, though, isn't it?
Yes.
If you've earned the right to come to me and say, Liz, where are you? What is going on? And tell me about myself. That's friendship, because a real friend isn't going to go, no, it's fine. You carry on doing what you're doing, when it isn't. And especially when we're harming ourselves and other people. And I think, that's just, for me, friendship. It's a minimal, basic level of, if we're calling each other friends, you're going to get the real version of me.
I'm not looking for
I'm going to hold you. I'm going to hold you. And that, whatever that looks like, I've got space for you. And I think it's important. I don't think a lot of people get that,
No. So your journey of recovery, it's been ups and downs, ins and outs, and I suppose, so when did you first know you had a problem? When did you sit there and go, and forgive my language, when did you sit there and go, fuck, I've got a problem?
Oh God. Do you know what? I was speaking about this to somebody else the other day, and not about addiction, but just about my God, my life. I was in jail on my 30th birthday, and the ladies in jail sung me happy birthday in jail. Wow. 30th. And it was just what the am I doing here? How have I got here? Which is a really stupid question to ask yourself, but I did. Why has this happened to me? Why am I so cursed? God doesn't love me. All that absolute ridiculous, self-questioning. It's everybody else. Blame. But that, I think, and that was when I got out in 2005. So that was the real turning point of, I understand that this isn't how I want my life to be. I understand that I have a part to play in this, even though it's everybody else's fault. But I suppose in terms of my addiction, I didn't realise just how damaged I was until I walked into the rooms of the 12-step programme. That was when I met my ex-husband, Freudian slip. Because I was already in, dipping my toe in recovery, even though I was still using. And for those that don't know, for me, using is alcohol. I class it as a drug. It's part of my 12-step program, but I was still using. And I was part of this recovery community down south where I live, and they'd sort of said, you know, because you're not on a script, you're not tied to a chemist, you want to go to Birmingham to this conference. You know, it was a drink and drug newspaper conference. You know, the magazine that they used to do. I don't know if they still do it.
DDN.
Yeah, do they still do it?
Yeah, they still do it.
Do they still do the conferences? That's where I met him.
Oh, they should pay me for that.
They really should. That was a little plug there. So yeah, our eyes met across a table eating vegetable curry, and he actually shared the message of 12-step program to me, and I will be eternally grateful to him for that, and for our child obviously. But I think I carried it for 9 months, so that's on me. I'm gonna bless myself.
I want to ask you what the message is, but I don't want to put you on the spot. But it is any addict.
Any addict. I can't remember it now. You put me on the spot.
Any addict can lose the will to use.
It's a message of hope.
Yeah,
a message of hope and freedom. You know, no matter who you are, no matter what your addiction is, you know, come to meetings, work a 12-step program, and you do not have to use again. And that is my experience. I have got relapse in my story.
Yeah.
You know, and
let's talk about that. Let's jump onto that.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, no, not a problem. So I love the fact you skimmed over the marriage. I mean, my marriage broke down. This is not.
So we can come back to the relapse. We can come back to the relapse. So let's talk about the marriage. So you come into recovery, and the person you're talking about carried the message.
Yeah, he carried the message, and I went to meetings because like he was this 12-step guru in my eyes, and he'll love this if he hears this. So this is for you. But he spoke this really attractive language of recovery. And some words I didn't even understand. I had to Google them. And be like, I don't even know what abstinence means. Like spiritual principles. What's one of them? You know, like but he spoke my language as well, you know, about banging up and stuff.
Yeah.
And that I found really attractive. So if I'm being really honest, I walked into a 12-step program because I was half trying to impress him, which doesn't matter what got me here.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what got me through the rooms of a 12-step program. It got me there. And through, you know, and I would say the first 4 years I weren't working a program at all. I weren't doing step work. My sponsor used to go, "Have you done any step work?" And I would be like, "Yeah." And then I'd Google the questions. Like, oh, that really sounds really good. What does the disease of addiction mean to you? I'm going to write that because Google come up with that because it was that seeking external validation. I needed my sponsor at the time to go, "She's recovered. Yeah. She's amazing. Look how well she works the program." And I wasn't. But what I did do is I got around the women. In fact, I stalked a few of them. Not in a weird way. Just I wanted what they had. Yeah. But also, you know, like turned up to meetings, got known. And at the time I said, got my network. No, I got my friends.
That's it, isn't it?
Got friends. Do you know what I mean? That only want what's best for me. And this leads nicely into my relapse.
Go for it. Jump straight in. It's yours.
So my dad died.
Yeah.
And it was like, because I hadn't done any, you know, investigative work on myself, I hadn't, you know, done any therapy, I hadn't done any, you know, step work. It was like being this abandoned little girl all over again. When he died, like, how dare he die? He hasn't even reached out to me to make amends with me. This is my thinking.
Yeah, of course.
Real living in victim. So I went out to Gibraltar to sort of, I didn't even know why I went out to begin with, because I hadn't had a relationship with my dad for many, many years. He came to my wedding, like, and that was just really weird. It was like two strangers, like, walking down the aisle, and I picked up. I was in Gibraltar with my niece. Went to a meeting in Gibraltar and picked up my white key ring.
Straight back.
Yeah. But I hated every minute of it. I remember my friend, I'm not going to blow up because she'd hate me for doing that. I remember being on the phone to her off Moffat, like, and she's going, "Just get in the house." I'm like, "I am in the house." Like, I'm off it. And she's like, "No, you're not. I can hear the cars driving past." Like, "Just get in the house." Like, she was getting really... But that's what I'd built. Over the 4 years that I'd been around, I had people that gave a damn.
Yeah.
Who would call me out on my stuff, who loved me no matter what I was doing. So as much as I wasn't working a 12-step program in traditional sense, I'd still built those friendships up. And so I was held. I remember coming and having service at this particular meeting and making a service commitment up for me. Didn't do it. It was tea and coffee. I didn't do any of it. Yeah. But just so that I would turn up to the meeting, just keep me in the middle of the boat. And that's when I got a new sponsor and really started working a program, like pen to paper, deadly honest, really, you know. And this woman that was sponsoring me, she'd known me since the day I'd been around, and we'd already built up this friendship. I already really, really trusted her and valued what she had to bring. And from there, really, I started to flourish. Things changed. Unfortunately, it's unfortunate for my ex-husband because I know he's really, really happy with his new partner now. But unfortunately for our marriage, that was the beginning and the end. Certainly for me, a lot changed. I changed. My non-negotiables changed, and I wanted more from life because then I could start to see my value.
Yeah.
Really start to see my value.
Sounds like, and sometimes it takes that experience, doesn't it? A jarring experience. I think that's what the literature says. A jarring experience, and sounds like you came back and did the work.
Yeah. Did the work to the extent that my mum died exactly a year later. Exactly a year later from my dad, because of course she had to be in competition with him. Yeah. God love her. And
she won.
She won. New Year's Eve she died. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, I'm going to top you.
Yeah.
And I didn't pick up.
Wow.
So I think when you look at it like that, the only difference between the two is, one, I wasn't working a programme, and with my mum I was. My sponsor at the time, excuse me, even said, turn up and do your 50%. So when I went to my mum's and she was like, what are you doing here? Like, my mum died at home. And I can remember being at the top of the stairs when my mum passed. And this is going to sound a bit weird, but my friend phoned me. Again, friends checking in. And me and her giggling at the top of the stairs. Like, not in a disrespectful way, but just like, she's like, you're right. I said, I'm okay.
There's like significance in that. Look, I'm going through this, but I've got me.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay. And there was no real amends process that happened with either my mum or dad. My dad, I was completely broken with it, really angry. And with my mum, I was really at peace with it. It's okay.
Yeah,
it's
just
okay.
Acceptance, and that's what you get as part of this. So I suppose you've been in recovery, a while, and I would count the time before as well, because that's a learning experience, and I don't think there's ever any time wasted. I think relapse can teach us a lot. So I suppose kind of being in recovery, what's been difficult, going through your journey, and you touched on it briefly there. But you sounds like you prepped yourself with your mum. You was like, okay, this is what I need to do. I know something's coming, and
yeah, it was different with my mum. Most certainly, my dad, it was such a shock. It was, even though obviously death is part of life, but it was just so sudden, and there was no prep for it. And it's like that. If you're spiritually, tapped out, like you've got nothing in the tank, you've got no reserves to be able to deal with like these things that come up in life. And there's a bit in the step work about reservations. I didn't even know I had any reservations, because I hadn't done any step work. So how would I know? But with my mum, it was really different. It was because we kind of knew. I knew she was going. Like, that's why I went down there that weekend. But still having enough in the tank to be like, this is okay. I'm going to get through this. And I do believe, and with complete conviction, that if I'd been plugging in and working a program before my dad passed, I don't think I'd have picked up.
Are you happy to talk about your sister?
Yes.
I know it wasn't on the list, but I remember we spoke the other day.
Yeah.
Because that's coming up again for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you're in a very different place now.
Yeah.
So talk to us about what's going on with your sister.
So my sister, the other day was she's on palliative care. So she was on a syringe driver. I'm saying was because there's more to this now since we spoke.
Update.
So she's obviously got cancer, and she got pneumonia, and then she was in hospital. They're doing a treatment. Treatment's not working, so she was on palliative care, and she's now discharged from hospital.
She pulled through.
I'll tell you, but the infection's gone, the pneumonia's gone, and I don't know about treatment, but one thing they said to her, and one thing she wanted was to go home. If I'm going to die, I want to die at home.
Wow.
I don't want to die in a hospital. And I just think the sheer tenacity and pig-headedness and that thing of, you ain't telling me what I ain't going to do. Because they said, oh, no, you ain't going to go home and die. She's like, wanna bet? Watch. And she was 2 days ago, 2 days ago I messaged my niece. Sorry, not 2 days ago. Yesterday I got a message off my niece and she said, we're home.
Wow.
I know.
Because when we spoke, they were upping the morphine.
Yeah.
And essentially slowly,
Yeah.
putting someone to
Syringe
sleep.
driver. They just pain meds, just managing her pain because the treatment that they were giving her wasn't working. She wasn't responding. There's nothing more we can do. She doesn't want to be resuscitated.
Wow.
So this is now the path. Of course, she's now at home.
She's got up and gone home.
I don't know whether she got up because she can't walk because
No.
she's so frail. But yeah,
made that
and I
choice.
just think that just goes to show you never know what's going to happen. And I just think, you go, girl. Like
Talking about miracles on the phone the other day, weren't we?
Yeah.
We were talking about miracles.
Yeah. I just think, and I think, obviously the cancer's gone nowhere. She's still got that. But even if she gets her wish that she dies at home, then like that miracle's happened, isn't it? But I just think it, and for me and her are building a relationship, and so it kind of feels like it's giving us a little bit more time.
Yeah.
A little bit more time to. Yeah, a little bit more time.
That's God there, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Like, for sure. I mean, she kicked everyone out the I'm sure she won't mind. She kicked everybody out the hospital room. Like, you all need to get out. Stop policing me.
Yeah.
Sounds something I would do. And then literally 3 days later, she's at home.
Wow.
I know. And with now the consultant saying, we'll review what we're going to do in terms of treatment, because obviously they'd said, nothing's working. There's no more we can do. We can't resuscitate her, so it's just now pain meds.
Well, that's got me a little bit, that has. I wrote her off. I said, just give her all the morphine she wants.
Same.
That's what I said. I said, that's the miracle. Give her the morphine she wants and let her go peacefully. And
I've had conversations. I know we had the conversations that if it was a dog, if she was a dog, we would have put her down.
Yeah.
We would have put her out of her misery. I don't know why we put. This is why. Yeah. This is why we don't do that. And I think
one's in the family.
Yeah, I'm stubborn.
Tenacity.
Man. Yeah, don't be telling me I can't because I'm going to show you I can. Yeah, absolutely.
So what? And go real deep for me. What have you learnt about yourself being in recovery?
Oh my God. What have I learnt? I've learnt a lot of things, and what have I learnt about myself is that I'm a survivor. I'm stronger than I give myself credit for, and I really like human beings. Like I'm a people kind of person, even the damaged little biscuits, And I think, I got profiled, and I'm gonna blow her up. Michelle Mills Pora. You ever want to get? She's the people reader. If you ever want to be profiled and know how you tick, go see her. She's amazing. She profiled me and she got me to a T. Humanitarian. I really see the good in people. I have this open need to just try and help other people strive to be the greatest that they can be, and at the same time being that myself.
Yeah.
I have no qualms in, blowing my own trumpet. And at the same time I'll blow yours.
Yeah.
We're just human beings having a human experience. Michelle Mills Porter.
That's good, isn't it? By helping other people, that can only bring the good out in us.
It does.
And it build, good qualities and good principles and spirituality. That's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Absolutely, and it's like you see it, don't you? You can get up in the morning, go through life, Mrs. Grumpy, me, have no positive interactions, or you can get up, feel grumpy, and be like, just want to tell you, I think that shirt looks amazing on you. That one little action, that kind thing that you do for another human being, mainly a stranger I do it with, and you see people like light up. And I do it regularly, just them small acts of kindness to people I don't know. And then when you see the response, it makes you light up.
Yeah. So what have you learnt about relationships?
That I'm not very good at them. I'm really not. I'm not very good at them. I'm like Bambi on ice. I've got lots of learning to do. And what happens for me is I forget who I am. I forget who I am, and I revert back to every time.
So talk to me about that process. So meet someone. We're on our game. Let's create the scenario here.
Which attracts them.
Of course.
Which attracts them because I'm on my game and I'm flexing. Yeah. The minute they go, I'm interested. I go, okay, how can I please?
Yeah. Wow. And then you take your eye off your game.
Yeah. Completely off your game.
And that spiritual bank you mentioned earlier.
And then I'm like this frail little girl all over again, not knowing how to function, not knowing how to please you. Completely makes them go, oh God, which it would. This isn't who I saw. So
You're back there, aren't you? I'm 11
Yeah.
again. I'm 11,
Yeah.
and how can I please you?
So what it's taught me is I've still got a whole lot of healing to do,
Yeah.
like around this stuff, and the next person, next man I invite into my world, I have to be really mindful of that because it can be damaging for them too. You know?
It's really conflicting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we want to, we're human beings, so we're meant to be in relationship or have connection.
Yeah.
And then, as we're learning about ourselves, those boundaries are soft, and so they're soft, so they're easily put them down easily. Do you know?
Absolutely, and in that one area, because I've got a multitude of amazing people in my world, that I hold really, really dear. But and I'm going to say it because I was going to say intimate, but it's not even intimate because I have intimate relationships with my with friends.
Yeah.
Sexual relationships, when it converts into that's when I'm like, blah, 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 my head, I don't even know what it does.
Yeah.
It just goes a little bit off key. I lose sight of who I am. I take my eye off the ball. I take the eye off my recovery. And I don't think I'm very nice to be around,
Is there like a moment when you do that? Because I know for me, there's a moment when I do that and I go, I hear that quiet voice in the back of my head. You're not on your game. You've taken your eye off recovery.
For me, I think only because I was married my whole of my recovery, and it's only been really recently this has happened for me over this last year, that it was when I decided to stop interacting with this person. I was like, wow.
And you rang me.
We had remember the conversation we had, and I'm really fortunate because I've got really dear people in my life that would like that with me. Liz, what's going on? Like, one woman said to me, I don't even know who you are at the moment. And those statements really powerful because these people have earned the privilege to talk to me like this. Actually, Liz, where are you? Like, but with love. Like, there was love there, and so now it's that, okay, I really need to look at this gear because I don't want to bring that into the next. I would like a really healthy relationship. Are you getting upset, my view? I love you.
I'm recalling it.
No, you're going to make me upset too.
I'm recalling a phone call where I rang you and I described what I'd done. And then I said, how are you? And then you just described to me
the receiving end.
What I'd just done to someone else. And I said, I'm really sorry that's happened to you. And you asked me and you said, why do men do that, Dan? And I said, we're just looking for a mum.
I know.
I didn't even want to get upset. I had it together up until
but that's the beauty of being human, isn't it?
Yeah.
That actually that interaction between me and you was so pure, and both learnt from it, and all that can come from that is growth.
You didn't stop me.
No.
You let me get my stuff off, and then you told me your stuff, and I was like, I just remember them thinking, what an incredible person, because I've just ripped the plaster off for her, and and then you we just had this whole moment together, didn't we?
That's friendship, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm going to judge you. I'm going to just love on you. But what, for me, certainly what came out of that moment is, what the fuck am I doing? Like, this, and certainly I know my situation is that you can only treat me how I allow you to treat me.
Yeah.
So if you do it once, that's on you. I can walk away. But then if I allow you to come back and repeatedly do it, that's on me. It's like training a puppy, innit? You can keep weaning that bot, and I'm going to keep letting you until I say no more.
Yeah.
And that's what happened for me. I just went no more. And now the learning, now the healing begins. Oh, it was so beautiful. I want to do. I love you.
All right, let's move on. Back in the room. So your mum, Oscar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oscar.
So what does mum mean to you? And take recovery out of it. I'm sure it will come into it. And how has it changed you?
Oh my God. I always said I didn't want kids. Always said it. Don't want to get married, don't want to have kids. But having Oscar, he's like my little soulmate.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. He's rough around the edges. He can be really feral, which I enjoy. I like. He's unique. He doesn't mind being different from everybody else in terms of, like, they did that whole, what do you want to be when you grow up? When they're like 5, had to go into school dressed up. Everyone's like nurses, doctors, and he went as a graffiti artist.
He's cool.
And he's so cool. And he was really specific. I need this, is it a snapback cap thing?
I wouldn't know, too old.
Same. Anyway, I just love his uniqueness. And I think from that, he teaches me every day how to be a better human and how, you know, like, he's a little boy. He didn't come into this world and so I'm going to be this way towards women. It's what he's taught, you know, and he's my greatest achievement. I think I said this at the beginning. He's my greatest achievement, but my biggest challenge, because he'll challenge me. He'll be like, I can lose my shit, and he'll be like, Mum, that weren't okay.
Yeah.
I think you owe me an amends. And I'm like, okay, he's 12-stepping me now.
Yeah. That's, unless they pick it up, don't they? Of course they can. They can't not pick it up.
No, exactly.
Okay, well, so I suppose, you know, if you could say anything to someone that's been in your position, someone that's going through the stuff you're going through, someone that's still in active addiction, what would that be?
God, that's such a difficult question. I suppose if I was still in active addiction, what would I want someone to say to me? I want someone to listen, go and talk to someone. Like, don't carry it. You know, you're not the problem. You have a problem. You are not the problem. You know, I suppose it was certainly something that I've had to learn to change my language of how I speak to myself, is that I'm not the problem. I have a problem.
Yeah.
You know, that's disease of addiction.
And what about if someone's, there's a notice, you know, we're in the same kind of friend circle, Facebook friend circle. A lot of new mums at the minute that are in recovery.
They are, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's really nice to see, because I know that I know where that goes. You know, where that, like, I know that how that feels, and they're struggling. What would you say?
You're not alone.
Lovely.
You're not alone. There's nothing you're going through as a mum that a mum hasn't gone through or experienced or thinks, because as parents, I can't speak for men, but as mum, I can be like, I wish the little shit would just leave me alone. Like, and that's okay. Like, we're human. Like, but yeah, you're not alone. And if you feel alone and you've got my number, hit me up.
Lovely.
Yeah, Mum.
That's us.
Oh, it's been a blessing. Thank you so much for asking me on.
That was good. No, thank you. So people can follow you on
Instagram.
What's your Insta?
It's Liz Turner Coaching. They can find me on Facebook, which is the same, and you can find me on my website, which is lizturnercoaching.com.
Lovely. Facebook?
Just Liz Turner.
Just Liz Turner.
Just Liz Turner.
There you go.
Like, you'll see me, I'm in bright pink.
Well, yeah, that's it. Thank you, Liz, for coming on, and I didn't expect it. But it's been really, I didn't even thought about that until you mentioned it, and so you got me.
Good.
But yeah, that's it.
Oh, lovely. Right, thank you.